Welcome back to the table of ranking, back by popular demand. We're using my kitchen table today, which is a little dirty. Sorry. Um, because the table that I usually use for table ranking is currently occupied. And today we are ranking Crash Bandicoot games. Couple rules before we start. I'm not ranking the handheld entries, so no Game Boy Advance or DS games today. Sorry. And I am missing two games that I've played a bunch of. One of them I actually have digitally on my PlayStation 3. So I have a couple games filling in like I've done before. But only two of them are missing, but I've played both of them a ton, so don't worry about that. From least to best, we have Crash Mind Over Mutant. I think this is my least favorite Crash game. The sequel to Crash of the Titans, which we'll sort of see later. Mind Over Mutant, I think it was a step backwards for what they were attempting to do with the Crash series. It has a weird open world design, which I'm not crazy about. Also, the character models and the redesigns look kind of strange. Not a terrible game. None of these are terrible games, but just my least favorite. Next up, we have Crash Tag Team Racing, the lesser of all the Crash racing games, in my opinion. It is sort of fun. I liked it as a kid because it has some silly slapstick humor. It's by Radical, who made like the Simpsons Hit and Run and stuff too. I think this game's also by Radical. Yeah, Radical. Um, so they were really doing good Crash games at this time. And Tag Team Racing, I think, it's just lacking on the racing front. It has some fun platforming sections and mini games and gags and goofs and characters, but just in terms of the racing, it's kind of bland. Fun mechanic where you can kind of smash cars together and do a tag team thing, like you see Crash and Cortex doing here with Crash's terrifying face. But overall, my least favorite racing game in the series. Next up, we have the only party game entry on console, which is Crash Bash. Um, this game I played a lot as a kid with my parents. I loved playing this game. It was never one I really got to play with a lot of friends, though, because a lot of friends just weren't into Crash. There's Dingo Dial back there. I love Dingo Dial. Look at him throwing that TNT crate. It's a fun Mario Party knockoff. It does get a little repetitive, though, with the minigame variety. And playing the single player is very annoying with how often you have to play the games over and over. But if you have some friends, it's fine. Next up, we have Crash Nitro Kart, the sequel to Crash Team Racing. I think this game tries to be Crash Team Racing, and it fails. It's not as good. It's very janky to me. It's Vicarious Visions did this, which is funny because they would go on to do like the Insane Trilogy and stuff. It has some cool stuff like the zero gravity driving, like you see the characters up there on the clock, which is something you see like Mario do later on with like Mario Kart 8. The storyline's fun in this game. The locations are fun. I just think the game's like the gameplay itself could have been a lot better. They did it a lot better. Naughty Dog did with Crash Team Racing. But Nitro Kart, I think it's just an average kart racer. Next up, we have the Wrath of Cortex. This was hard. I was really debating where to put this game because I played this a lot. This isn't actually my original copy. My first copy I ever had was on the original Xbox. Back when I first got an original Xbox, and I played it a ton. It's basically just a Crash 4 before Crash 4. It does basic Crash stuff you would normally see in a Crash game. Relies a lot on gimmicks, though. And it's just not as solid as the other three entries before it. But I think if you're looking for a traditional Crash game, this one can still deliver. Plus, it introduces Crunch Bandicoot, who's one of my favorite Crash characters anyway. Some good music. I don't think this is a bad game. I've heard people rag on this game. I don't think it's a bad game. I think it's just not as quality as the first three games. This is the first one I don't actually have a copy of, but I've played it a ton. I plan to get another copy, and I'll explain why I don't have a copy anymore. This is Zach and Wiki Quest for Barbarossa's Treasure, filling in for Crash of the Titans. I used to have Crash of the Titans on the Xbox 360. I sold my 360 and all my games, and I haven't rebought a copy of Crash of the Titans. But I can say that Crash of the Titans is a very fun 3D beat-em-up platformer. Kind of like Mind Over Mutant, just more quality in my opinion. I really enjoyed Crash of the Titans, and I think it's a fun time. Crash Twinsanity, another one that I had a hard time debating on where to put it, because I like this game's style a lot. I like the humor. I like the world. It's a very goofy game. Even here, you can see like the weird stuff you could do with Cortex, and I like the fact that this one's censored and has the rating over it. It's very funny. Some goofy humor, some fun gameplay. The problem with this game was that it was rushed, so it feels a little unfinished at times, which is the only thing holding it back. I've ran into some weird glitches in this game, and for a Crash game, that seems a little odd. But I understand they were kind of rushed through their development. They cut levels. They even joke about that in the game's dialogue. So I do like this game. I think it's still a fun experience. I just think it's held back by the fact that the game's not technically finished. Crash 1. This game's fucking hard. Respect. It means it's the original Crash game. Respect. I love this game. It's a classic, but it's so fucking difficult. I rarely go back to Crash 1. Next one is, I have a game filling in for it. The next one is Crash Team Racing. I have a digital copy on the PlayStation 3 because I never actually played it as a kid. I didn't play it until I was a teenager and had a PS3. Filling in is Wipeout 3. Crash Team Racing is one of the best kart racers of all time, and that's why the other kart racers in this pile, they're not ranked as highly because it's hard to stack up to that original Crash Team Racing. Great mechanics, great game feel. It's just a fucking phenomenal car racer. Crash Insane Trilogy. I'm putting this above Crash 1 because I think it improves the first Crash game. I don't think it improves 2 or 3. I think it's still a fun way to play those two games. But I think this is the better version of Crash 1. And if you want all 3 games remade, Vicarious Visions, there they are again, did a fantastic job. Crash 2. My mom will be upset. This is her favorite. I played this one a lot as a kid, obviously because she loved this game too, and we loved playing it together. Very nostalgic for Crash 2. Not my favorite Crash game, but one that I still love to return to. It's just, this is probably Crash 1, I think, really got the character like in the spotlight, but I think this game is what solidified Crash as a bona fide classic. Crash 4, here it is, Crash 4. I'm actually playing this right now. I'm playing it again. I love this game. It's a very, very well done game, and I hope Toys for Bob gets another chance to do like a Crash 5 or something. Phenomenal experience. A little padded out with the collectibles. A lot of collectibles. If you're going for 100%, you're going to be playing this for a very long time. And that might not be a good thing. There could be like some DK64 syndrome here, where it's just too much. But if you're playing it just as a Crash game, fucking great game. These last two are very hard to decide. This is Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled. I think this is the way to play CTR, and it has all the levels from Nitro Kart as well, and it has original stages. And has a ton of characters, and it just feels great to play. I've put so much time into this. This is one of my most played. This might be, no, it's not. This is like my second most played Switch game. I think my most played is still Smash Bros, but this one is like second in my most played ranking on Switch. I put so much time into this game. It's fucking great. That was my first Game Talk game on the button mappers. I love this title. This last one is the one I have the most nostalgia for. Crash 3 Warped. This is my original copy. All my PS1 games are my original copies, but this one I clearly have the case still intact. A lot of them I had to find new cases for because the cases get all fucked up. I hate these cases so much. But this game is the one I've played the most. I think it's the most original of the Crash games. Even like the Insane Trilogy version, I don't think replaces this version for me. I love it so much. It was one of the first games I ever beat, and I still love going back to it. It's still so much fun, and I think it's the best